What's up everyone? Another comparison today. Now these are two phones that I actually do like. The iPhone 6s Plus was a phone that I had as a daily driver for a while, probably 4 or 5 months, which in my opinion is a long time because I'm switching phones all the time. And it was the second iPhone I've ever owned as a main phone. Now the iPhone 7 is another pretty cool phone that I like as well. And there's some quirks and funny things with it, but I think as a whole, both these phones are decent contenders. And believe it or not, these were two phones that I said were pretty much the best iPhones you can get for under $200. The iPhone 7 is a little bit harder to find under $200, but I was able to find a couple, maybe like 4 or 5 less than the iPhone 6s Plus, but still, if there's a will, there's a way, so you can still find an iPhone 7 for under $200. So let's see how both of these compare. Now, honestly, I'll just say it right out. If you want to get a bigger iPhone, obviously get a 6s Plus. If you want a smaller one, get an iPhone 7. And if you can tell from the sizes, there's too much different here, whatever. But these phones are pretty similar too, because they both got iOS 12. Right now, they're on the latest version, 12.0.1. And once 12.0.2 comes out, or 12.1, obviously things are going to change. But in terms of speed and everything, I am going to do a speed test in the middle of this video to kind of see which one is faster, because the specs obviously are better on the iPhone 7, but in some cases I have seen where the iPhone 6s Plus is faster than even the iPhone 8 Plus and the iPhone 10. So just because it has higher specs on paper doesn't necessarily mean it is a better phone or more speedier of a phone overall. Now, in terms of the release date, the iPhone 6s Plus was released in September of 2015. The iPhone 7 was released in September of 2016, so a little bit over a year, not a year, but just about a year between each release date. And if you're looking at the front, okay, obviously you would see one is bigger, but in terms of the functionality and the way these phones look, I mean, both of them have a lot of bezel around the screen, and these phones were pretty much released at a time where bezels were starting to slim down a little bit, especially towards the iPhone 7, that era, when about 2017, that's when they started slimming down. So the 6s Plus kind of gets a pass. The iPhone 7 also gets a pass, but I think they should have decreased them when the iPhone 7 was released, especially the 7 Plus, because you're spending more money on that. But in terms of the front, we have a 5.5-inch IPS panel 1080p on the 6s Plus and a 4.7-inch 750p panel on the iPhone 7. And in terms of the panels, I will definitely give the edge to the 6s Plus. I do think, even though the 7 might have a brighter screen or whatever, I just think the panel is sharper. Now, in some cases, I have said before that I have noticed that my iPhone 6s screen seems sharper than my iPhone 6s Plus screen, but that does kind of vary. I mean, sometimes I think so, sometimes I don't. But I think because the panel is smaller on the iPhone 7, it makes it have the illusion that it's better, but it really isn't. Now, one really big advantage of just the front of the iPhone 7 is that the top earpiece is actually a speaker too. So if you're consuming a lot of media, you're watching a lot of videos and stuff, having that type of stereo effect would really enhance your media experience. But the iPhone 6s Plus does not have that, just has a single facing speaker on the bottom, which isn't horrible, but it's not really comparable to the iPhone 7, I'll say. Another cool advantage of the iPhone 7 is that it is IP67 dust and water resistant, so you can go up to 1 meter of water for 30 minutes. And apparently the iPhone 6s Plus was a little bit of water resistance, but they never certified it because there was a little bit of water sealing around the screen, but that really just depends. I mean, both these phones, I'm sure if you dip them in water, take them out, they'll be good, but the iPhone 7 will technically last you better in tougher conditions. So that does have the advantage on the iPhone 7. Now, another thing, they both have Force Touch, but one thing about the iPhone 7 and why I bring it up all the time, because if you're getting these phones used, you probably want to spend the least amount of money. One thing to keep in mind is that the iPhone 7's home button is pretty much tied with the screen. So if you plan on getting an iPhone 7 and you plan on fixing the screen or something, you will actually have to go to the Apple Store to fix it. You cannot go and fix it yourself unless you want to give up the home button and Touch ID. The same thing happened with my iPhone 7. The screen was replaced and the home button does not work anymore. Now, I use Assistive Touch and it's not a really big deal. I don't use it as a main phone, so it doesn't matter. But if you plan on using it as your main phone, you might have some problems and you might honestly be sick and tired of going to Assistive Touch every time. The 6s Plus screen, however, can be replaced without giving up the home button or Touch ID. As long as you don't swap the Touch ID home button or the motherboard, then you'll be good. But that is kind of an annoyance there. Now, in terms of the software, like I said, this is pretty important because both these phones are going to be getting the same amount of software versions for a while. Now, in my opinion, I think the iPhone 6s Plus is going to get one more version of iOS, so it's going to get iOS 13, and then it's going to stop there. I don't think it's going to go any further after that. There is a possibility, but I don't think so. The iPhone 7, however, is going to go out to iOS 14, so it's going to get a couple more versions of iOS. So it's going to get all of iOS 12, which is pretty much, a year. Yeah, all of iOS 13, which is another year, and then all of iOS 14 as well, which is about another year. So this thing, if you get it now, will at least last you 3 more years in terms of software updates. So that is one cool little advantage of the iPhone 7. But again, there could be the possibility that the 6s Plus could get iOS 14 as well. Apple could extend it another year. I don't know the possibilities of that, but it is a possibility. So just kind of keep that in the back of your head. In terms of software, the 7 will last you longer, but the 6s Plus does have the advantage or the potential of lasting just as long as the iPhone 7 potentially. It's kind of too early to state it in paper and stone to say, it is going to last as long, but I don't know. We'll just kind of have to wait and see. But in terms of the specs, the iPhone 6s Plus had the Apple A9 chip, a dual-core CPU, and 2 GB of RAM, where the iPhone 7 has the Apple A10 Fusion chip, a quad-core CPU, and 2 GB of RAM as well. So on paper, it does seem like the iPhone 7 is actually faster than the iPhone 6s Plus. And as soon as I got the iPhone 7 and got the 6s Plus, I've ran speed comparisons. I mean, I had the iPhone 6s Plus pretty early on in iOS 11, and I did many tests on it. I did a lot of benchmarking and everything, and I saw the 6s Plus wasn't slow at all. And I saw the iPhone 7, and I've owned it for a minute too. And between both, I think these are pretty good contenders for a speed comparison. So let's go ahead and do a speed comparison and see how these things hold up. So both these phones are running the same exact apps. I installed them. I actually tried to position them out a little bit better. I don't know. I try so hard. Let's go ahead and load up these stock apps. And then we'll go ahead and do some other apps later. So let's do the camera. 3, 2, 1. Ooh, it looked like the 6s Plus was a little bit faster there. Let's do photos. 3, 2, 1. The 7 was actually faster. This is the 7. Let's do calendar. 3, 2, 1. They look pretty the same. Let's do FaceTime. 3, 2, 1. iPhone 7 was faster there. Let's do mail. 3, 2, 1. They looked pretty even. Maybe one was a little bit faster. Let's do clock. 3, 2, 1. And the same. I don't even know why I do clock on these phones. Maps. 3, 2, 1. I think the iPhone 7 was faster there, just because it kind of loaded up a little bit faster. Let's do weather. 3, 2, 1. iPhone 7 was faster. Let's do notes. 3, 2, 1. The iPhone 6s Plus showed the continue sign faster, which is weird. Let's do news. 3, 2, 1. The iPhone 7. I will redo this test right now though, because this one still had to sync up. This is my first time getting it. This isn't even the first time I went into news though. So I'll just go ahead and redo this one. Let's go ahead and hop out of both of them. Okay, let's go ahead and redo it. So news. 3, 2, 1. And it seems like again the 6s Plus was faster. That was kind of weird, but it could have been that one was a weird test. Let's do stocks. 3, 2, 1. I'm gonna go ahead and redo this one too. Let's do stocks. 3, 2, 1. iPhone 7 was faster there as well. Let's do an iTunes Store. 3, 2, 1. And iPhone 7 was just a little bit faster there. Let's do App Store. 3, 2, 1. iPhone 6s Plus seemed to be a little bit faster, not by much though. Let's go do iBooks. 3, 2, 1. And the 6s Plus actually loaded it up faster, which was kind of weird. Was not expecting that. Let's do Watch app. 3, 2, 1. I keep saying Watch app, but it's the Apple Watch app. This one was pretty even. Maybe the 6s Plus looked to be a little bit faster. Let's do Snapchat. 3, 2, 1. And the 6s Plus loaded up a little bit faster. Let's do Facebook. 3, 2, 1. Again, the 6s Plus was a little bit faster there too. Let's do Twitter. 3, 2, 1. And the 6s Plus was a little bit faster there too. Kind of weird, was not expecting that. I think it's another one of those 6s Plus versus A Plus things again. Let's do YouTube. 3, 2, 1. And the 6s Plus definitely loaded into faster, but it looked like they both loaded around the same time. Let's do Temple Run. 3, 2, 1. Now this is a pretty not even intensive game, but it shows, which one is faster. It looks like the iPhone 7 showed the Game Center thing a little bit faster, but they're both very, very close as you can see. Dude, that was almost like dead even in my opinion. That was really weird. I was not expecting that. Let's go ahead and do Real Racing 3, 3, 2, 1. Now this is a pretty intensive game. Now I think I'm on different phases in both these games, so I'm just going to keep clicking the screen and whichever one gets in faster. So the iPhone 7 is already in the game, and the iPhone 6s Plus shortly gets into it after. So as a whole, I would definitely say that the iPhone 7 is a little bit faster here and there. For some of these minor apps, I'm not too sure what the case is, like Facebook, Snapchat, Instagram, Twitter, why it's faster on the iPhone 6s Plus, but loading apps and everything like that is faster on the iPhone 7. It's kind of weird. I mean, if we look at the multi-core scores, I don't think there's that much difference. I mean, this is a kind of a really bad example because we have a 121,886 on the iPhone 7 and 149,204 on the iPhone 6s Plus. So as a whole, I mean, the iPhone 6s Plus does have a larger score, but again, it doesn't really mean much. There's been cases where I've seen up to even like 180,000 on the iPhone 7. So some cases it's kind of like a miss, like sometimes it's better, sometimes it's not. So as a whole, I'll still say the iPhone 7 is more faster overall. It could be a software thing, but I just don't know what happened here, why these apps were faster on the iPhone 6s Plus than the iPhone 7. But I will try to do more speed tests and kind of do more research to figure out why that's the case. But up until then, I guess we're just gonna have to kind of see what happens. But I'll figure out those answers soon. I'll let you guys know. But I want you guys to know one thing, just enjoy the rest of this video. That was the most emotional speed comparison I've ever seen, guys. Now, in terms of the camera quality, they both have 12 megapixel sensors. They're both single sensors, so they're not like dual camera setups or triple camera setups or anything. And it's kind of weird because they shoot the same video frame speeds as well. So they shoot 4K at up to 30 frames per second and 1080p at up to 120 frames per second. Now, one thing I want to say is that pretty much I would maybe give the advantage to the iPhone 7 just because it is a newer sensor. But between the two, I mean, I don't think there's really that crazy of a difference. I mean, there probably is. I mean, if you take it and you zoom in like 300 times, and yeah, but if you're taking average photos, like if you're an average person and you're taking photos of your family, your dog or whatever, I think both cameras would suffice. Definitely the 6s Plus would suffice. The iPhone 7 is just better than the iPhone 6s Plus, but honestly, I don't think it's that much better. They both have optical image stabilization. They both do not have portrait mode or anything like that. So in terms of software, they're both pretty much the same. Of course, the iPhone 7, like I said, is supposed to be better because it is a newer sensor, but honestly, I don't think one is like way better than the other. In terms of the front camera, the iPhone 6s Plus has a 5 megapixel front-facing camera. The iPhone 7 has a 7 megapixel front-facing camera. They both shoot 1080p videos at 30 frames per second, so I don't really think one has a bigger advantage over the other again, but the iPhone 7's camera is higher in megapixels, which doesn't mean everything. It really doesn't mean much, especially on front camera sensors, but I don't think, one camera is way better than the other, but I will probably still give the edge to the iPhone 7. Now, I've given a lot of edges to the iPhone 7, but it doesn't necessarily mean it's the better phone overall. One thing that the iPhone 6s Plus has going over it would definitely be the battery life. It has a 2,750 mAh battery, where the iPhone 7 had a 1,960 mAh battery. So I would definitely give the edge to the iPhone 6s Plus. It's funny because the 6s Plus didn't even have the best battery life out of all the Plus variants. And it's weird because the iPhone 7 didn't even have the worst battery out of all the regular size variants either. But in this case, it just seems like the iPhone 6s Plus, because it is a bigger battery and maybe because the specs aren't as powerful as the iPhone 7, maybe that's why it's better battery life. But mostly it has to do with the size. It's a much bigger battery. And this is why I would love to see phone manufacturers really start pushing bigger batteries in these smaller frames. I mean, we have all these technologies. We made chips so much smaller. We made everything so much smaller. Why can't we fit more cells in a more compact size, Maybe make phones slimmer and maybe increase the battery size. I don't know. But I would really love to see a bigger battery in all these phones, not just the 6s and 7, but just like Samsung's and LG's overall. But I mean, it is what it is. So some other notable things to note, the iPhone 6s Plus does have Touch ID 2 where the iPhone 7 does as well. One thing the 6s Plus has going over the iPhone 7 again is the headphone jack. They both can play music through the lightning ports, so it's not like one can do more than the other. It's just the iPhone 6s Plus has more ports, which really a lot of people I don't think are going to care. Me personally, I have AirPods, I have so many Bluetooth headphones, I have Beats, I have Power Beats, so like it really doesn't matter. When I'm working out, I kind of like having wireless headphones so I don't have to feel tethered to a phone, but some people like it, so I'll give you that option. The 6s Plus does have the headphone jack, so I guess you can kind of remember that. The 6s Plus I found did have better battery life, like I said, and in terms of performance, I mean, you guys kind of saw maybe one is faster than the other by a little bit. Sometimes the other one's faster, but I think as a whole, I think honestly, there's really not one huge bigger contender than the other. I mean, definitely if you like a bigger size, go for the 6s Plus. If you like a smaller size, go with the iPhone 7. I don't think there's one direct winner here. So as a whole, but just because they're both pretty much in the same price point, the iPhone 7 technically on paper is a better phone, but in some cases it's not because it's not as big. Some people like a bigger phone, and the battery life kind of is better on the iPhone 6s Plus as well. So what I'll say is both phones are very good. You can find them for around the same prices now. So if you want to go the used route, I would recommend going on eBay and going it through there, or even if you want to go on Craigslist or whatever. But if you want to get them for the lowest prices I find on Amazon, I'll link them down straight below so you guys can get them. They're a little bit more expensive. Usually they're certified refurbished, but if you get them through that link, they actually help support the channel. And even if you get anything through that link, if you have an Amazon account, literally just bookmark that page and just buy everything through Amazon there. It helps me do things like giveaways and get more expensive phones and all those things. So I'd really appreciate if you guys could go and help me out that way. But that is pretty much it. If you guys have any questions or anything like that, leave it down in the comment section below. Hit that like button, that'll mean so much, but definitely hit that subscribe button. Every single subscriber we get really does count, so it'll mean so much if you guys could hit that. Also check out the other links down in the description as well. My Twitter, my Instagram, my second channel that is also linked down below. I do a lot of iOS comparisons, and I've even done comparisons between the 6S Plus and the 7 on that channel as well. So I'd really appreciate if you guys could check that channel out too. But more importantly than everything else, I love every single one of you guys. Hopefully I'll catch you guys in the next video. Peace out till then.